non-aggression. Once that lesson sets in, you'll see a session.
Welcome. 3 Count Commentaries on the air, May the 2nd, 2023, the draft fallout for NXT. So this was a very solid show when it comes to NXT. And this has been solid storytelling up to this point. NXT has just been going slowly but surely through their storylines, doing their thing. It's going to be, they lost some talent, so it's going to be a pretty big hit. But a lot of the people that they took from NXT were not on top anyway, if you want to be honest. So, we're going to be talking about it a little bit as we go through. Match 1, North American title, Wes Lee versus Drew Gulak. The pancreas of pro wrestling, Drew Gulak. I'm sorry. You got to get it correct. He is the pancreas of this business. The match was pretty straightforward. Charlie Dempsey tried to interfere. Tyler Bate was there to knock him off. And Wes Lee ends up winning the match. It was okay. Fairly solid, standard Wes Lee match. He's literally, they just lining him up and Wes Lee is knocking him down. I would prefer if they tell an actual story with this guy so that things would make sense, but I guess I'm asking for too much. It's just asking for too much. I'm ready for the North American title to get hot again. It's been cooling off since Carmelo Hayes dropped it. Is it his fault? Not really. Is it? I mean by his, I mean Wes Lee. Is it Wes Lee's fault? The answer is typically no, because he's just a talent. He's just doing what he was told to do. He's going out there having good matches, and that's pretty much it. But we need some story add to this thing. This whole thing with Drew Gulak and Charlie Dempsey, it doesn't have enough sting to it. And I'm not even sure whether it's over or not, because he's beaten both of them now, so I don't know if it's over or not. All right, we move along to Fire and Dawn, saying that they have one more unholy seance to commence, and that KC Squared have been the torchbearers in NXT for a long time. But tonight they will extinguish them and that they will leave NXT in darkness. This brings us to the actual in-ring main event, which was KC Square, Katana Chance, and Kaden Carter versus Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. Now, Isla Dawn and Alba Fire win the match. The match itself was okay. It wasn't stupendous. It wasn't great. Was it worthy of the main event spot? I guess. It was all right. As a farewell for all of the girls involved, it was one of the better matches that they've had, if we're being honest. And you could tell that they actually wanted to go out there and make something special happen. I think they probably didn't know that some other guys were going to steal the show, but they should have known, because none of the people in this match are really awesome except for Alba Fire. Like, she's truly very good. The rest of them are just kind of okay. All right, so that's how that went. Trick Williams got on the microphone and tried to cut a serious promo, but he's a very unserious character. So he was still making jokes. So he started talking about Bron Breakker sending Carmelo Hayes to the hospital, and then says that Trick and Mello Gang go back to high school, and that them nasty-ass sloppy joes weren't the only thing cooking in the cafeteria. Trick and Mello Gang was also cooking. Then he says everybody knows that Mello don't miss, but when he does, Trick Williams got the rebound, which was a good line. Bron Breakker came out there, brags about putting Carmelo Hayes in the hospital, and then said that winning the title at Battleground is going to be easier than he thought. Trick Williams responded that, okay, so I guess you do accept the challenge. And Bron Breakker says he really doesn't want to, because he doesn't want to represent those people at all. But he doesn't like the idea of Carmelo Hayes having the title, and he wants to embarrass him in his hometown. I guess Carmelo Hayes is from Boston, if I remember correctly. The crowd is really behind Bron in terms of singing Bron Breakker sucks, and that was great. Anyway, as Bron Breakker was about to leave, Trick Williams was like, nope, you ain't getting out of here. Not that easy. You attacked me too, so we got to handle this like men. Bron Breakker said he'll take care of him next week. So they set this up, and this was actually pretty good because Trick Williams reminded everybody that he got the gift of the gab and the gift of the jab, which is awesome. But the only problem is Trick Williams is just, when you try to take him serious, you remember how silly he is. Like, I want to take him seriously so bad in this promo because he was trying to tell a serious story about how him and Carmelo Hayes are real friends from high school. But he even told the story in such a silly way that it kind of undermined what he was trying to do. Later in the show, Apollo Crews came out of nowhere and they were in the parking lot. So I figured, okay, this is about to be bad. But I was wrong. It was actually good. Apollo Crews gave Trick Williams a little bit of a pep talk. Said that he sees something in Trick Williams, that Trick Williams is the definition of a superstar, that, you know, if he keeps his nose down and focuses on staying true to himself, he will also be a superstar in NXT. And they've had their problems before, but this is truly, you know, a thing of respect. And then they dapped up and everything, and I was like, interesting. There's something that they're doing here with Trick Williams. You know, they lean a little bit more into Trick these days. You know, I don't want to say that they're teasing a breakup. I don't want to say that, but they are teasing that there's more to Trick Williams that they want to do, and that's good because they should have been doing that. He's awesome. He's like really good. So I don't see what the problem is. Okay, JD McDonagh started talking about how 21 years it took for him to get to Monday Night Raw. So he definitely, what do you call this? As JD or Raw McDonagh or JD McRaw or some shit he said. Anyway, Noam Dar looked like a straight damn fool in some kind of really super big shirt. It looked like he was wearing a borrowed shirt from Goodwill, and he had pigtails. I'm like, what's going on here? Anyway, Noam Dar asked JD McDonagh to break Dragon Lee's knee or something, for old time's sake, because they're old buddies from Europe. And then JD essentially told him to piss off because the only thing Noam Dar cares about is that Heritage Cup, which is why he never got a shot at the Heritage Cup, because he would have beaten him and taken it. I was like, oh yeah, okie dokie. So he was not interested in being the hired gun for this guy, which is of course smart. Now, JD McDonagh and Dragon Lee, they had a really solid match. It was a video game match though, which featured a lot of no selling, guys working very fast, you know, some really big moves that really did little to no damage to the performers. I mean, come on, Dragon Lee did like a poison rana, which, you know, drives your head into the mat. JD McDonagh was literally up 22 seconds later and hit him with a lariat that made Dragon Lee do a flip. I'm like, come on. You know, they're playing Street Fighter at this point. But the match was very solid. The finish comes with interference from Noam Dar, who distracted Dragon Lee. This leads to JD McDonagh botching his finish. You know, the finish was not perfect. Like, imagine these guys are doing all of these poison ranas and stuff like this, and when it comes to a simple teardrop back suplex, they couldn't get it together. So, on the second attempt, JD McDonagh landed his finish and won the match. Having McDonagh win was a surprise. Having him win on his way out was a surprise. And they gave us a good reason why he won with, you know, Noam Dar interfering, but I don't like, why is Dragon Lee losing already? That sucks. Okay. Even if you want to tell the story about Noam Dar, he still should have won. JD McDonagh's not about to do anything on Raw. We all know this. You know it. I know it. HBK knows it. The crowd chanting "You deserve it" at JD McDonagh all night and chanting "thank you" and all this kind of stuff, after not really giving this guy much of a reaction at all during his time in NXT. Like, I mean, during his entire time in NXT, he wasn't getting much of a reaction. And then out of nowhere, he's, "You deserve it. You deserve it. Thank you, JD." And, you know, fake, fickle. All right, so we now know for sure JD McDonagh is going to move on to Raw, and Dragon Lee's moving over to this Heritage Cup thing. Okie dokie. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with Dragon Lee losing, but okay, it's over. Gigi Dolan versus Jacy Jayne. They had another very, very mid match. Gigi Dolan wrestles very, very slow. She also threw some really crappy roundhouse kicks. I don't know. She wrestles with no confidence. I don't know what's going on with her. You know, like there's almost no swag in Gigi Dolan as she wrestles. Her brother was at ringside. I think they said his name was Miles. I don't know what his name is. Maybe I made it up because I was thinking of something else. But the match itself was quite mid. Jacy Jayne got busted open somehow. I think it may have been her scalp or her hairline or something like that, where when she got rammed into the steps, when she came up, she was bleeding. Now, the referee did not stop the match in order to wipe up any blood. And this basically fired up Jacy Jayne and gave her an opportunity to do some really good stuff with her facial expressions, which is excellent because her body expressions has been the strength of her character. She ended up yelling at Miles after the match that, "Does this remind you of your mom?" While she was covered in blood. And Gigi was all beat up in the corner after she had beat her up after the match too. So it was a great visual. And since this is a feud between two women who definitely have had history and stuff like this, it was a nice little addition. But also, since you know that it wasn't a blade, that they clearly just nicked Jacy Jayne somewhere. And since the finish had come pretty quickly after the blood began, you could tell that it was more than likely an accident and they just decided not to stop the show for it. But, you know, I mean, crazy. Two girls go out there and one of them start bleeding. They don't stop the match at all. I mean, two top level main event guys bleed at WrestleMania. Oh no, we got to stop everything. Oh my goodness. Oh my good God gracious. What are we going to do? He's bleeding over here. You got a man bleeding in a fight. Like, what? Come on. Anyway, the Jacy Jayne was tremendous in this match. Gigi Dolan continues to not be very good. I think it's all that wagon she's dragging. It's making her wrestle kind of slow. And for some reason, she doesn't seem to have a whole lot of confidence. It's just something weird going on with Gigi Dolan. Like, she's getting a really big push, and the in-ring stuff is not catching up. And so somebody who has a significant amount of time in NXT now, she's been in NXT for over a year. And she had a significant amount of time on the independents. She should be better than this, you know, and it's hard to say why she's not better than this, but, you know, she's being outshined by Jacy Jayne at pretty much every step. Outside of the thick thighs, she's being outshined at pretty much every step by Jacy Jayne in this feud. So now they're 1-1. Gigi won the first match. Jacy won the second. There's likely going to be some kind of blow off at Battleground. That ought to be fun. So I'm enjoying the feud. I wanted them to do a little bit more. I know I pitched last week that Gigi's brother should actually join Jacy in the feud, and that would have been nice. I would have done that. I would have had like Gigi's brother pull her leg or something like that. That would have been great. But they're not ready for that kind of creativity yet. He ain't ready for that. But just for the blood alone, it was interesting. You definitely missed something if you didn't watch this live. Okay, the third match on the show, Axiom versus Scrypts. This match was better than it should have been. Reggie has definitely improved. So Axiom wins the match, and it was, again, like I said, it was better than it probably should have been. After the match, Scrypts is offered a hand by Axiom, who helps him up. And then as soon as he gets up, Scrypts punches him in the face. So they fight a little bit, and then Axiom snatches his mask and kicks him in the face again. The crowd pops and starts chanting Reggie at Scrypts. But before the camera really hits his face, they cut to something else. But it's I was very disappointed they didn't save this for a mask versus mask match. That they instead just decided to snatch Scrypts' mask. I mean, if you were going to do this, you could have done it in a mask versus mask match. Why not have a mask versus mask match? I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. I mean, it seemed to right itself. This is one of those weird things that you looking right at it and you're saying they're both talking about unmasking each other. Why wouldn't this match be mask versus mask? I don't know. But anyway, Scrypts was unmasked. It's Reggie. The Scrypts gimmick wasn't working anyway. It sucked ass. So them finally getting rid of it was the right decision. He's actually improving in the ring too. So he doesn't need this silly gimmick. So this works for me. Now maybe one day we can unmask Axiom, So maybe we can unmask Axiom too, because that gimmick also sucks. All right, so Brooks Jensen goes to the bar to hang out with Josh Briggs and Fallon Henley. They forgave him for how he was acting, and then he thanked them for their forgiveness. Then he said that he learned a lot from Kiana James about business and started breaking down how the land is worth money and how they could borrow from it and yada, yada, yada. Two fine chicks stroll up and ask Brooks to go have a drink with them. He's like, oh no, I'm having fun with my friends right now, but thank you very much. And they're like, wow, he really has grown up. I'm like, what? He just turned down having drinks with two chicks. Like, this dude is as weird as ever. What a weirdo. I know that, he got his heart broken by some girl, but come on, brother. You can't be serious. You can't be serious at all, man. Okay. Next, Joe Gacy is watching Joe Coffey in the gym. Joe Coffey doing all of the weightlifting and the push-ups and everything. And Joe Coffey's just kind of standing there grinning. Like, maybe he ought to get in the gym. Like, the gym? What is this? Where can I find it? Anyway, he talks about sacrificing himself to get the Dyad another title shot. The Dyad said that they will take care of the Gallus if he took care of Joe Coffey, which is a deal that they decided to make amongst themselves. Ava Raine then told Joe Coffey that he should do this for them and then do something for himself. So they had the match, which was Joe Gacy versus Joe Coffey. It was actually a kind of hard-hitting big boy match. It was okay. I definitely seen Joe Coffey have better matches. I've definitely seen Joe Gacy have better matches. So it was okay between the two of them. It wasn't terrible. The stipulation was that if Joe Gacy won, the Dyad would get a tag team title shot. And then Joe Gacy won because Schism was cheating, which they always cheat. Ivy Nile was watching this and was very, very offended, very upset, disgusted even, that Schism always gets away with cheating. And so she marched off. But it seems like she's going to go and pick a fight with Ava Raine for interfering in this contest. But I can't believe Joe Coffey lost to Joe Gacy. That's really weird. But it's a story they're telling. The Dyad, who desperately want out of NXT, now they're getting all the title shots they wish they would have gotten before. They were perfectly happy to do nothing for a long period of time. And then NXT had nothing for them. Now that they want to leave, they're like, you know what? We're going to give you guys like eight tag team title matches. Just cause. No big deal. Just cause. Just in case you were thinking that we hate you. No, we'll give you all these shots. They're not going to win the titles because they're about to be out of there soon. But it's just a way of finishing the story. All right, so Dijak. He says that he gave Ilya Dragunov a warning to not show up at the arena last week. He did so anyway. So he beat the tar out of him. And then it says that Dijak says he can break anyone, and he was going to break Ilya next week. That ought to be fun. I'm thinking that's next week's main event. I'm thinking. Dani Palmer is backstage stretching, and Hank and Tank come in there to cheer her on. I don't know why everybody's so excited about Dani Palmer. I mean, there's a ton of excitement around her. So Dani Palmer has her match against Tatum Paxley, and it's actually better than I thought it would be. Dani Palmer is another acrobat, another tiny woman who does flips. She's very, very agile. Her best friend, quote unquote, is Sol Ruka. And she already has more wins than Sol Ruka. Sol Ruka won 0 matches on the main roster of NXT. Well, on the NXT roster. While Dani Palmer won her first one. I mean, I swear, Sol Ruka went like 3 months without winning anything. Shame that she beat Tatum Paxley, though. I think Tatum Paxley has some potential. I don't know why she's in this position right now, but I don't know. But Dani Palmer won. She won with a frog splash. And it was, I'm like, hey, like the frog splash is becoming like the spear, where everybody's got one. I think she probably, if she's so flippity-doo-dah, come up with something else. Be a little bit more creative. We got enough people doing frog splash finishers. Maybe somebody else need to do something else. All right. But she wasn't awful. She's just very small, and it's going to be another one of the, it's another Casey Squared situation where she's probably going to fit better in a tag team more than as a solo act, but she's still okay, I guess. Eddie Thorpe was backstage training before he got interrupted by Damon Kemp, who proceeded to treat him like a young boy, tell him to clean up after him and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't like this. That's the best I can say is I don't like this, so whatever. Damon Kemp just feels very forced, and Eddie Thorpe just not clicking. He ain't clicking. They're starting to do NXT UK stuff too when they just hanging around the ring. Like, okay, we all know it's a school, but do we really need to see everybody hanging around the ring all the time? Anyway, moving on. Duke Hudson and Thea Hale are backstage. Thea Hale is stressed out because class is canceled, as Andre Chase still has not recovered from the beating he took from Bron Breakker. But Duke Hudson slides in, takes over the class. He has a syllabus and a curriculum because he's going to take over. When he was asked about pop quizzes, he ends up tearing up all the pop quizzes. No more pop quizzes in Chase University. Everybody's extremely excited about that. And then he sort of jokes about Duke University. Says it has a nice ring to it. So this is where we're going with this. We're going to have Duke Hudson take over the school. Okay, sure. That ought to be interesting for a little while at least. Until everybody realizes that he's full of shit. I love how he is a heel, and yet most people have not noticed it yet. Like, he is a heel asshole, but they haven't noticed it yet. All right, Von Wagner. He was showing Robert Stone pictures of his dad wrestling in Wembley Stadium at SummerSlam 1992. Funny enough, Robert Stone was asking him, like, is this you? And he was like, I wasn't born yet. So he was upset. Robert Stone asked again if he was upset that his dad didn't win the championships. And he was like, no, but he plans to be a champion in WWE. They flipped through the picture book a little bit more, and then they found some pictures supposedly of Von Wagner. He's hooked up to some machines and everything, and he might have had like some birth defects or something like that. And Robert Stone asked him about that, and Von Wagner was like, I don't want to talk about this. I'm done for today. So he closes the book and he walks off. So they're going to explain to us why he's such an ogre, apparently. So that ought to be interesting. I like find out the secret of the Hunchback and the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's like, why you so ugly? Why you this way? And he probably got like acromegaly or something like that. I'm telling you, he probably got acromegaly. That's enlarged body parts. Like he got a gigantic head. So that tells you that something's going on there. There's a lot on his mind. So Indi Hartwell has her farewell address. It starts out with her talking about signing to WWE at 23, showing up to NXT, looking up to the women of the black and gold era, and all the women who made that title worth it. And then said that people counted her out. They doubted her until she found the way. Then eventually she got married. She won the title. And now it's time to sort of pay it forward. And says that she will give up the NXT championship. And next week there will be a tournament to decide who the new champion will be. She says that she wants to end on a high note. So she says, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. And as she was on her way to leave the ring, Dexter Lumis appeared and carried her away. It was a nice little poignant scene. as he's carrying her up the ramp. She left the belt in the ring after she kissed it. And then out of nowhere, Tiffany Stratton grabbed the belt. And then Cora Jade grabbed the belt. And then Lyra Valkyria came in there. And as you know, every woman from the locker room is fighting in and outside the ring. It's like a gigantic brawl. And I'm thinking to myself, what is this going to accomplish exactly? Like everybody's fighting. What is this going to accomplish exactly? I don't know. I don't know what this is supposed to accomplish, but they're telling us the story of the tournament, of course. I forgot to talk about this. They actually showed all of the backstage attacks. Nikita Lyons, Wendy Chu, Sol Ruka. So they haven't forgotten that somebody's being attacked backstage. So they still got that going on in the women's division too. So they got a lot of women's division stuff going on. As far as the tag team titles, Fire and Dawn claim they're going to defend the titles on all three brands, which is not likely to happen. It's more likely that, they're going to get stripped, which is far more likely to happen. But, one tournament at a time, I guess. So that is going to work out fine. I'm sure it'll all work out fine. Grayson Waller did not have a farewell address on NXT. Apollo Crews got to say something before he left. KC Squared got to say something, but they got to hug each other before they left. Fire and Dawn got to talk before they left. JD McDonagh had to talk again. He got a match before he left. The only one, well, Odyssey Jones didn't get anything either, but no Grayson Waller, which you would think he would at least got something, right? But Grayson Waller cut a promo on, Raw Talk, that had a lot of people sort of enchanted, that won a lot of people over. So the promo goes that he was frustrated that he got drafted so late and felt like nothing is better than him with a chip on his shoulder. And after being disrespected by being drafted so late, he definitely has a chip on his shoulder. So he drinks White Claw out of a blue shoe, which pops like the whole row of girls behind him, like Nikita Lyons is just everybody's quiet, like really studying his promo and watching what he does and watching what he says and everything, because he is really good at promos. And then the shoe comes out, and then everybody just starts to corpse, like they're trying their best not to laugh as he breaks out this shoe. So as he drinks out of the shoe, like 3 or 4 girls just start laughing. It's like, oh my God, this guy's he's clowning right now, So I guess that was his farewell address. They could have at least showed it on NXT. I know, I don't know. They could have at least showed it. That would have been fun, right? But they had fun with the draft thing, and NXT got gutted. Now, I would suggest that they send a couple of people down to NXT, and I have some people in mind, Of course, always with Cedric Alexander, I just feel like he could really use a run in NXT. I think people forgot how good he is. So I think if we got to fill in some blanks, and I'm also hearing that Triple H is about to tweak NXT again, and some people believe that it's going quote unquote back to being a super indie, which I don't believe. I still think it's going to be developmental, because that's probably a position above Triple H, just making sure that's going to happen. But I would think that he's probably going to end up focusing more on experienced talent. And that you could tell that by how much time JD McDonagh and Dragon Lee got this week, and how much time Ilya Dragunov and Dijak are going to get next week. So you can pretty much tell that he's going to start leaning more into the guys who've been there for a while, who've got time in. And some people have even had a conspiracy theory that a lot of Vince's guys are the ones who got drafted. But I don't really see it that way. I mean, I know Von Wagner and Zion Quinn were Vince guys. Maybe Odyssey Jones is too. But I don't really, because Zoe Stark Triple H was all on top of Zoe Stark. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. I promise. But he was pushing her at like house shows and stuff, and on main event long before she was ready. So I can definitely see what people might be thinking in terms of the conspiracy theory of they trying to get all the Vince's people out. But no, Zoe Stark also got taken. So it is what it is. I think they did a nice little balance, and they probably just looked at it and says, Zion Quinn's been in NXT for a long time. Odyssey Jones has been there for a long time. Von Wagner's been there for a while, and they're not doing anything in NXT. There's no role for them. Maybe we can find something for them to do on the main roster. And sometimes you got to push the birds out of the nest. So I'm okay with them being called up. I just think they should send some people down. And I think that Cedric Alexander is definitely one of the guys they should send down. He's still fairly young. I think he's in his early 30s. He definitely can go down there, and he has a wealth of experience from his time in working the indies and WWE that he could teach people in the ring how to do tremendous amount. I mean, Shelton Benjamin is another one. Los Lotharios, Humberto Carrillo, and Angel Garza, both of them had abbreviated runs in NXT. Garza was former cruiserweight champion, but he wasn't in NXT very long before he got called up. So I think there's some people that you could probably send back down to NXT, and they're going to want to do that. Considering they pulled the top heel, which is Jordan Grayson. He was the top heel in the brand. Now, they did turn Bron Breakker, but he's a different character than Grayson Waller. He's not like a central heat magnet heel. He's sort of a big bad bully. And that works to a degree, but you need somebody with some chops, like with some mic skills. And either you're gonna find that guy, you find somebody in the performance center and try to groom him, or you can send somebody down and give them that role. But that Grayson Waller role was going to be hard to fill, and that's going to be a tough one for them to swallow because he was one of the guys who could really have interesting storylines and feuds without a championship because he was so good at talking. They need people who can do that. They need people who are interesting off title. So they might have some in NXT, send them down. Maybe you even want to send Riddick Moss back down to NXT, which I don't think anybody would be too upset if they did that. So Cedric Alexander, Riddick Moss, Mustafa Ali, you've got guys on the roster that you can send back down. And I think they should. I think they should send like 2 or 3 guys back down. Girls too, Emma will be great back down in NXT where she came from, So that would work out so she can, her and Moss could work on something in NXT. They don't have to worry about time constraints of SmackDown, All right. So talked about this show. What did you guys think? Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.